Ladies and gentlemen, or ladies and three gentlemen, I think. My name is Luke John Harrison, and thank you for giving me your attention and your time. I'm hoping over the next 30 minutes I can help you with overcoming some self-doubt and becoming your strongest self. And as I get this started today, I just want to hit you with some facts. 1 in 6 adults over the past week have suffered with some mental disorder like anxiety or depression. And unfortunately, it's only getting worse. Did you know that in 2022 they conducted a study and found that there were over 5,200 reported suicides, and it's only getting worse. And what they found as well in a 2021 study is that only 36% of UK adults over the age of 16 are categorized as normal weight. 34% were overweight, and the rest were classed as obese. Now that goes to show that over 60% of the adult population in the UK is at risk. And we know this to be true. We know that obesity rates and mental health rates are on the rise. And I don't mean to start this off in a negative way, just to factually state that things are not as bright as they seem. But however, we, every one of us, can in some way make an impact on that. Regardless of whether you fit into that category, you will know somebody who does, who is of ill health, who may become of ill health. And we collectively as people, regardless of what space you're in, whether you're in the fitness industry, the wellness industry, whether you are just a normal person who enjoys looking after themselves, regardless, every single one of you in here is an inspiration to somebody else out there. And I think we're very, very hard on ourselves far too frequently. Very hard on myself. I've been coaching men and women and people from all different backgrounds for over a decade now. And along the way, helping them physically, mentally, and emotionally, I've found a lot of people quit. A lot of people give up. And one of the main reasons why people quit and give up is not because they're not capable, not because they don't have the time, or the money, or the resources, or the energy. A lot of people quit because they feel guilty. They feel guilty that they're spending their energy, their time, and their money on themselves. And they think that they should be somebody else and something else to some other people. They become a people pleaser. And maybe you can relate to that. We've followed something for a while, and we quit when it's working. We quit when things are going well. We quit and then we decide to give our attention to somebody else. And granted, sometimes it needs to go to somebody else. But it reminds me of this story that I was told recently. Back in the 90s, Michael Jordan, regarded as the best athlete to ever live, he had several coaches that came on the road with him when he traveled. And one of the coaches was his strength coach, his personal trainer, who used to teach him weights in the gym and all that. But anyway, when he used to go back home and obviously travel around the world, he had his dream job. And he had a young family. And the family, he had a daughter who was 4 years old at the time. And he used to come and go. And he tells the story of one time when he was going away to help the basketball team and Michael, his daughter said, Daddy, why do you have to always leave me and Mummy? And he said, well, darling, I need to go away and make money so I can put food on the table for you and Mum. And she said, well, her response was adorable. She said, well, Dad, if I eat less, will you stay home more? Heartbreaking. Broke his heart. I was torn. He tells the story, he says, I was torn between what to do. I felt so guilty. But I kept going away and making the money and doing that. And anyway, time went on. And as she became a young woman, 17, 18, he came to her one day and he said, look, I really want to apologise for not being there when you were a youngster. Daddy was away a lot. He had to work away, and I'm so sorry. And she said to him, Dad, I don't want you to apologise. I saw you have the courage and the confidence to go for your dreams. And now, as a young woman, I have the courage and the confidence to go for what I want to go for. See, we are all inspiration to somebody. We set examples through everything we do. But a lot of people quit because they feel guilty spending time on themselves, following their own path. Did you know that they did a study on the dying? People who had, say, months, like weeks to live or days to live. It was a big comprehensive study. And it was on the biggest regrets of the people who were dying. And you might think that the biggest regret was spending less time at work and really spending more time with the family, and that was up there. But it was actually number 2. They found that the most common regret of the dying was that they wished that they'd lived the life that they wanted to live, not the life that others wanted them to live. And that's a profound and quite powerful statement there. Living the life that we think we should live, rather than the life that we want to live. And we can all fall victim to that. My own personal story, if we backtrack to about 2011, I was a weekend warrior, you could say. I was taking cocaine constantly on a weekend, ecstasy, downing myself with vodka. It wasn't a during the week kind of thing, but on a weekend I would get rotten drunk out of my mind several times in my 20s, probably for a good decade, 10 years. Have I shaved some years off my life because of that behaviour? Maybe, I don't know yet. But I was in some broken relationships at that time, broken lifestyle choices. I wasn't exactly a stand-up role model. Snorting cocaine on a weekend, lying to a lot of people, doing a lot of things that are not necessarily stand-up behaviour. But for me, my lowest point came when one New Year, I was in a relationship at the time, we had an argument, we left a pub, and I got accused of assault, which never happened, a physical assault. And for a long time, it was just one person's word against the other, and I tried to prove myself. Trying to prove yourself when it's just one person's word against the other is physically and emotionally exhausting. Maybe some of you have had that experience before. But I noticed over the time, that particular time, how low I was getting. And you could say depressed, anxious, massively on the bottom. The rock bottom moment for me was heading to a pharmacy in Durham, looking at all the pills on the counter and seeing what I could buy to end my own life that day. Obviously they wouldn't have sold me them, but the thought was there. What can I do now to take this pain away? I know some of you will be able to relate to that at some point in your life. So I didn't do that, but I had to then think, I do not want to get this low again, ever. I need to do something about this. I need to improve myself. I need to study and get better and do things that help my body and nourish it rather than destroy my mind and my body. Hence, giving up alcohol, cocaine, all the rest. But along that time, I noticed that I wanted to prove myself to other people so badly that it tore me up. But then I noticed, because I was trying to prove myself so much, I noticed that I wasn't at peace. And I feel like it's far more important to be at peace with where you've been and where you are going than it is to prove yourself right. And I noticed in that time as well how much I was battling the biggest battle, which is everybody's biggest battle inside here. And the biggest battle is with our own ego. And that hit me strongly. Took a little bit of time to realize it, but I thought to myself, it's my own ego playing up here. I wanted things to be right. I wanted things to pan out a certain way. I needed people to feel a certain way about me, otherwise I didn't feel validated or accepted. We are always in the biggest battle with the ego. And one thing that led to was anger. And I became angry and frustrated. And I would lash out at people, not physically, but verbally, or, I would lash out at myself. And I would then obviously go on a weekend bender and think that that would make things better. And then because people wouldn't believe certain things about me, I got more angry and more frustrated. And you felt like gritted teeth in that rage. And I get some people express it in different ways, but we somehow feel that anger is actually a bad thing. It's not. Misguided anger is a bad thing. When we lash out, when we are physically, mentally, verbally abusive to others or ourselves. Anger in itself can actually be quite useful, because what it did for me was say, right, I'm going to fucking show them. It got me started. Anger is a beautiful motivator if it's used correctly. Hands up in the room, those of you who have ever became single and got an even better shape. I'm sure someone, be honest, I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Why does that happen? Well, it's interesting because the anger gets you started. Right, I'll fucking show him. Fuck him, I'll show him what he's missing out on. I'll show her what she's missing. We get into the state of anger, so it kickstarts us into action. That can be very useful. That's a great catalyst for change, for starting, right? But it never lasts. Because ultimately, when we're vengeful or aggressive and we get started, right, I'm on my mission to get in shape so I can show them what they're missing, it never lasts. Never lasts. We become quite exhausted. But what it does do is it fuels you to get started. But once it's worn off and we become comfortable again, let's say, using the single example, somebody comes into our life, we don't need to impress anybody anymore. So what do? We often get comfortable. The takeaways come out, we get quote unquote lazy together, and we then let our body go and we think, well, we don't need to look after ourselves much anymore. This happens a lot, and we see this a lot, and you kind of get where I'm going with this, right? But why does that happen? Well, along the time when, again, I'll just use that analogy of getting in a relationship, being angry, getting started, doing well, then getting comfortable. We feel like, oh, I've just lost my motivation now, you know? We say that a lot, I've lost my motivation. If we want to get back on track with wherever we are in my life, I've lost motivation. Well, here's the thing, you might have lost motivation because you lost the anger. You realise that it wasn't a fuel to keep going. That's why most people get great to piss somebody off and get started on a relationship breakup. But then along the time they start to think, I've lost my motivation, I can't be bothered now. I've just lost it a bit. But what we fail to realise is that motivation is temporary. I know we all like to feel it. We all like to feel that kind of boost inside to get started and get going and feel pumped up. It's great to have a pump up, but it never lasts. But one thing that is far more powerful than motivation, and you might think I'm about to say discipline, because this is big in the development world. Don't use motivation, just be disciplined. You hear that a lot, right? Just be disciplined. Discipline is doing it when you don't feel like it. Being motivated is doing it when you feel like it. Now, that's not bad advice, it's great advice in fact. But what when you don't have the motivation and you're not disciplined? You feel a failure, right? You feel you can't do it. What's wrong with me? What's going on? I cannot do it. I should just be more disciplined, right? I should just be a more disciplined person. We might even react to that when we say, I've lost my way, I just need to be more disciplined, don't I? We say that, right? But I think what's missing is inspiration, which is a far more powerful force than motivation. Inspiration comes from within. It's that thing that lights us up inside, that gets us thinking, fuck me, I want some more of that. Give me some more. See, if we think motivation, it's like a push energy. And I know we're very big on energy in the room. There's a very good energy about the day. I love it. Everybody can start to feel it, hopefully, by now. I've only been here about an hour and I can feel it already. There's a good positive energy in the room. But when you're motivated, you almost feel pushed into things. And when you want to get motivated, you say, I need that push, I need that kick. How many of us use the phrase, I just need a kick up the arse? We use that phrase, right? And I get why. Because we need kicked up the arse into starting to do something. We need pushed into doing things. I heard one last week, a woman said, I just need a gun held to my head. Fucking hell. All right then. Yeah, literally her words. But think about that kick up the arse, right? Think about it rationally and logically. Someone kicks you up the arse, you get started. Oh, thank you for that. You're going to thank them for kicking you up the arse. Happens the next day, thank you for getting me into that. Now imagine someone doing that every single day, kicking you up the arse. Imagine how fucking annoyed you're going to be at that person, eventually. Think about it logically, rationally. We say, I need a kick up the arse, I need a kick up the arse. But eventually we're going to be fucking sick of a kick up the arse. It needs to be something more, because we're going to get annoyed at the other person for pushing us, and we're going to get frustrated at ourselves that we can't do it ourselves. So rather than a kick up the arse and a push, we need that thing where we go, you know what, I love this, give me some more. Where we hold out our hand and we say, I want to do this. It's not something we should do or have to do. It's something we get to do and want to do. That's called inspiration. When we do it enough, we might need a kick to start, we might need a push, but eventually we want to go, you know what, I want some more. Rather than someone kicking us, go, come on then, let's do it together. Let's do some more. Inspiration is a far more powerful energy than motivation is. And when I do my talks and I do a lot of content, if there's any content producers in the room, you'll know that you're open to a lot of scrutiny when you speak openly, when you put content out. People say to me, you shouldn't swear, you shouldn't say this or that, you shouldn't use the word fat, or you shouldn't use the mental health thing. People say you should consider people's feelings more. And whilst I'm not naive to people's feelings by any stretch, I understand that we cannot create change, impactful change, in this life by telling people what they want to hear. We have to tell people what they need to hear. And most people don't like that, and we know this, and sometimes we need to hear the right things as well. Sometimes the harshest wake-up calls, the things that have got us to reconsider our choices in our life, was hearing the thing that we needed to hear, not that we wanted to hear. The thing that was like, ooh, that was hard-hitting, but I needed to hear that. We can't, this is why I hit you with the stats at the start, because we need to know this. We need to understand that every one of us is an inspiration to somebody. And the fact is, when we follow our feelings too much, not saying disregard your feelings by any stretch, but if we follow feelings too frequently, that's what gets us in messes. We know this. I'm tired, therefore I won't do. I'm overwhelmed, therefore I'll just procrastinate and put off. I'm stressed, therefore I'll eat, I'll smoke, I'll drink, I'll do drugs, whatever it is. If we react based upon our feelings, then we're not going to get very far. But if we react based upon how we want to feel and where we want to go, then that will be an entirely different story altogether. Now, as influential people as we all are, again, regardless of your space, whether you're in it professionally or you're just someone who's interested in health and fitness and wellness, regardless of where you are, you can never force somebody into change. You can never actively really pound them into change. You can simply invite them by being the change that you want to see in the world. Because people follow, just like the story at the start of the 4-year-old girl, even as adults, we follow. We follow our peer group, we follow society, we follow social media, we follow people of authority. We follow all the time. But are you right now being the change that you want to see in the world? But the problem with a lot of people is, and I see this a lot, especially with coaches and teachers and mentors, is that we get frustrated when people don't follow along or they don't take our advice. And I have the same battle. I've coached for 10 years now, and I'm telling people what to do and they're still not doing it. But maybe you've heard that the greatest freedom is allowing others to have their experience. I'll say that again because I think it's quite profound. The greatest freedom is allowing others to have their experience. We feel a lack of freedom, I feel, because we are too expectant of others. They should do this, they should do that, or even we should do that, or we should do this. We expect others to follow us, and we become in conflict when they don't. But if we just become an example, then we can invite more people to follow what we do. Whether they choose to or not is their choice. The greatest freedom we can have is allowing them to have their experience. And the truth is that people follow based upon fear, mostly. This is how we operate. The majority of the world responds and reacts based on fear. And our deepest, greatest fear is the fear of not being enough. That at a surface, like a deep, deep surface level, that is our biggest fear. Every single one of us in this room. The biggest fear is not being enough. And when that fear sets in, that's why we lower our standards. That's why we'll conform to our peer group. Or, we'll do things to avoid rejection or disappointment because we want to always feel enough. And this is why some of our clients or our friends or our family won't follow our advice. Because if they do, and maybe they fuck up or they fail, they might not feel enough or accepted by those other people around them. And again, when I talk about this idea that we want people to act a certain way, how we act, or we give them advice and we want them to follow a certain path or whatever, we have the battle with the ego again. That should be the way it is. Why is it not this way? Why are they not responding how I want them to do? Our biggest battle is with our own ego. Because the ego loves to be right, hates to be wrong. And every single one of us knows exactly how that feels. We don't want to be wrong. And it's a very, very difficult battle. And because sometimes things don't work out, well, a lot of the time things don't work out exactly as we'd expect or how they should do, we feel bad. We can have a lack of self-confidence or self-belief because someone didn't take our advice, or we tried something and it didn't work out. And we have this, again, ongoing battle of the ego. But here's some more truth. You will never outperform your self-image. Ever. How you view you is far more important than how they view you. And everybody can be guilty of spending far too much time focusing on the opinions of others rather than their own opinion of themselves. I know you can all relate to that in some way. And your opinion of you is not the easiest thing to get a handle on, because we've got all these different influences coming from everywhere about how we should dress, how we should act, how we should eat, how we should train, how we should think. They're coming from everywhere. We look at our social media and we get conflicting advice about everything all the time. We get conflicting stories, conflicting words of encouragement, whatever it may be. But all of us just want to be happy, right? That's ultimately what we want. Regardless of how we choose it, that's what we're looking for. Inside, we're looking to be happier with ourselves, happier in our life. And sometimes we are misguided with what's going to make us happy. We think that external validation will do that. We feel like enough things and stuff or money will do that. And while it'll provide some immediate happiness along the way, it's not going to deeply fulfill it. It's not going to fill that void. There's a quote by the Buddha that said, attachment is the root of all suffering. Think about that. It's a pretty profound quote, that attachment is the root of all suffering. As in, when we get too attached to one certain outcome, one certain expectation, and it doesn't pan out that way, we feel disappointment, we feel regret, we feel despair, we feel our greatest fear is exposed, not being enough. And some of us get so attached to the outcome, so attached to the prize, the thing that we say we want, that we forget this whole thing along the way of the process. We get so attached to the destination that we forget about the journey along the way. And we all know that life's about the journey, not the destination, right? There's a very common positive quote that we all know. But how many of us are really living our life with that at the forefront of our mind? That it's not about getting to there, it's about who we're becoming along the way. Because that's ultimately what makes us happier, is not getting the thing. Because I imagine many of you have got a goal or a thing, and then when you've got there, you've been like, is that it? What's next? Or hey, this isn't as good as what I thought it was going to be. We forget about this journey, this process, because it's the character that we build along the way. It's the habits that we form, the people that we meet, the experiences that we have that determine how happy we're going to be. Not what we're going to get, but who we're going to become. There's a phrase as well that says, I don't know what I'm capable of. I just know I'm fully capable. I don't know what I'm capable of. I just know that I'm fully capable. Imagine if you repeated that to yourself a few times a day, every day. The reason I can stand here in front of you confident and able to deliver is because I've repeated that many times over the years. And I've practiced and I've repeated behaviors which have created confidence, because confidence only comes from proof and repetition. But all of us are fully capable of anything. Fully capable. We just have a hard time believing it. We have a hard time in believing ourselves. We are far too harsh on ourselves and hard on ourselves, I believe. This is why we are getting those stats, like I stated in the start. This is why we are becoming an epidemic of physical and mental health issues, because people are being too hard on themselves. They are not understanding the truth of it, as in, it's not the weight loss that's going to make you happy. It's becoming a fit and active person. It's not the money that's going to make you happy. It's the success and achievement and the standards and the character you build along that way towards becoming, if your goal is to be financially free, whatever it is. It's not that end goal of, the happiest marriage ever that creates it. It's the experiences that you build along the way, the memories, the journey, right? The ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the positives and the negatives. It's all the bits in between. And I know every one of you came here today with an open mind to be in some way educated, to learn something new, to maybe overcome some doubt, or to just feel like you're being part of something, have an experience. But did you know the true meaning of the word education comes from a Latin word, educo, which supposedly means to draw out from within. This is a great reminder that you're fully capable, because it's not necessarily about gaining new knowledge, because knowledge is not power, as many are falsely led to believe. Applied knowledge is power. So what I feel like you're doing today with all of these wonderful activities that are going on and speakers and things is that you're not learning necessarily new things, although you will get new insights. Something that you hear today, something that you do will give yourself a little bit more courage from within. It will give you maybe a question or an insight to go, ooh, that's good. I wonder how I can apply it to my life. Ooh, I never thought my body could do that. Ooh, I've never heard that before. What if I was to just apply that already? You are able, when you are educated properly, to draw out from within, to pick something out of you that's already in there and add to it. I see so many people with a lack of self-confidence and self-belief. It absolutely baffles me. But I get it. I do get it. I understand. I see the way the world works and how we're constantly comparing our lives to others and how there's so many different influences and stuff like that. And I think the younger generation have it a lot harder now with social media and everything like that. It's no wonder these mental health stats are on the rise and the physical health stats, because it's too easy to do things comfortably now. Too easy. We've got the one-clicks and the drive-throughs, and we've got everything at our fingertips. The most convenient world that we've ever lived in. But yet we're more stressed, more tired, more overwhelmed, more overweight, more sick than ever before. And again, I'm not saying this to add a down on it. I'm saying this is reality. Every one of us in this room has come here because we're at least in some way interested in bettering ourselves. And that's fucking amazing. And I urge you and encourage you all to continue on this journey of coming to these things, of reading the books, reaching out to the coaches, listening to the audios, whatever it is, being fit, active and healthy, because you're encouraging someone else so that they don't have to suffer and struggle. And let me tell you this, if I revert back to the original point of when you get single and you get in shape, the reason why that happens is not just because of the anger. Yes, you want to prove your ex wrong, but you also want to impress somebody else, don't you? Guess what happens? The reason why you're motivated and you're quite inspired to do better when you're single is because you make it more than just about you. You make it about proving them wrong, which is good, and impressing somebody else. And you like the compliments that you get because of it. And then when someone else comes into your life and you get comfortable, if you were then to get in shape, if I use that example, guess what? You just think about yourself. Well, if I was to do it, it would just be for me, because I don't need to impress him or her anymore. But the reality is that if you want to be more inspired, more motivated, more consistent, you have to make whatever goal, choice it is that you want to do, you have to make it more than just about you. Because we suffer when we obsess over ourselves. When we make it about other people, we'll be far more inspired, far more motivated, far more consistent, all the time. But if you just make it about you, you'll always blame motivation. You'll never have that real spark. But if you bring other people into it, your family, your friends, your kids, your community, your circles, your peer group, your work colleagues, if you make it more than just about you, you'll be so much more motivated, so much more inspired and empowered as well. And if I was to leave you today with two things that have definitely helped accelerate and, for lack of a better term, supercharge my life in many ways, it's two philosophies that I've lived by for a long time now, probably since I hit 30. 8 years. When I hit 30, I took my last line of cocaine. 8 years now, no more. Haven't had a drink now in 4 years. And I feel the best I've ever fucking felt. because of two philosophies that I've consistently applied every day. Number one, movement is medicine. And maybe you've heard that before. There's not a truer statement. When you move, you feel good. I know you've just done some great movement on the Tai Chi, right? And it made you feel what? Good. It always does. Regardless of what it is, everybody's got their opinion. You should do yoga, you should do weights, you should do CrossFit, you should do strength, you should do this, that. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep fucking moving. Because when we move, we create body chemicals that feel good inside. When we sit on our fucking arses, we feel like shit. And that is just the truth. You know it. The more sedentary you are, the worse you feel. The more you move, the better and more lit up you become. That's number one. Number two is that health is wealth. And again, these are not my phrases. You've heard these phrases before, but they're phrases that resonate with me so much that if I could get a tattoo and I had to have a tattoo on my forehead, that's probably what I would have. As stupid as that sounds, it's true, because it's the one thing that I want other people to take away. Movement is medicine, is health is wealth. We can literally save lives with those philosophies, and I do. And so will you as well if you keep them up. Health is wealth and movement is medicine. I see far too many people chasing success. There's nothing wrong with that, but if it's at the expense of your health, there's definitely something.